The Carvathi had ruled the Outer Rim for 3 centuries. Their reputation preceded them across 17 star systems, apex predators from a death world where survival meant clawing your way through venomous jungles and hunting prey that could snap steel with their jaws. They stood nearly 8 feet tall, covered in midnight black fur striped with silver, with retractable claws that could slice through combat armor like tissue paper. When humanity first made contact, the Galactic Council had warned them. "The Carvathi cubs are dangerous," the Zelthian ambassador had said, his 3 eyes blinking in sequence. "Keep your distance. They may look young, but they're born with killer instincts." That was before anyone met Maya Chen. She arrived at Station Kepler 442 on a supply ship, a 23-year-old xenobiologist with dirt under her nails and a degree from New Shanghai Agricultural University. The station administrator had hired her to study the local flora, but Maya had other plans the moment she saw the Carvathi delegation sulking in the shadows of the trading district. There were 5 of them, cubs, really barely adolescent by their species standards. Their fur was patchy, their movements awkward. One of them, the smallest, kept scratching at something behind his ear with increasing frustration. "They're infested," Maya muttered to herself, adjusting her scanner. "Parasites. Probably picked them up in the lower decks." The station security chief, a gruff Terran named Rodriguez, grabbed her arm. "Don't even think about it, Chen. Those things killed 3 maintenance workers last month." "They were defending themselves," Maya said, pulling free. "And they're clearly uncomfortable." Before Rodriguez could stop her, Maya walked straight toward the Carvathi cubs. The other species in the marketplace scattered like leaves before a storm. Merchants sealed their stalls. A group of Centaurian traders actually climbed on top of their cargo containers. The largest cub rose to his full 7 feet, lips curling back to reveal fangs the size of combat knives. His growl resonated through Maya's chest cavity like a bass drum. She stopped 3 meters away and sat down cross-legged on the deck plating. The cub stared at her. The growling stopped. "I know it itches," Maya said calmly, in passable Carvathi. She'd learned it during the voyage, listening to language files while other crew members slept. "I can help, but you have to trust me." For a long moment nothing happened. Then the smallest cub, the one who'd been scratching, took a tentative step forward. His ears flattened against his skull, not in aggression, but uncertainty. Maya slowly reached into her field kit and pulled out a small dermal scanner. The cub flinched but didn't retreat. She held it out, letting him sniff it, the way she'd done with feral cats back on Earth. "Just mites," she said after scanning him. "Uncomfortable but treatable, may I?" The cub looked back at his siblings. The largest one made a sound somewhere between a grunt and a purr. Permission granted. Maya spent the next hour treating all 5 cubs, applying antiparasitic gel to their fur, checking their claws for infections, and removing several infected quills from the largest one's paw, injuries they'd sustained in the lower decks where they'd been sleeping among industrial equipment. She worked with practiced efficiency, the same way she'd treated livestock on her grandmother's farm in Sichuan province. The cubs didn't attack. They didn't even growl. Instead, they began to relax, their postures shifting from defensive to curious. The smallest one actually leaned into Maya's touch when she scratched behind his ear. By the time she finished, a crowd had gathered at a safe distance. Rodriguez stood among them, his jaw hanging open. "How are you not dead?" he finally managed. Maya shrugged. "They're not wild beasts. They're kids away from home, scared and hurting." Word spread through the station like wildfire. Within a week, adult Carvathi began arriving. Massive warriors who could reduce titanium doors to scrap. Merchants who negotiated trade deals worth planetary GDP. Diplomats whose very presence made hardened soldiers nervous. They came to see the human girl who'd tamed their cubs, except Maya hadn't tamed anything. She'd simply treated them with basic compassion and professional care. The first adult Carvathi to visit Maya's newly established clinic was a female named Sharaket, a decorated military commander with scars that told stories of a dozen campaigns. She entered slowly, her claws retracted, her massive head lowered in a gesture Maya had learned meant respect. "My son speaks of you," Sharaket rumbled in surprisingly fluent English. "He says you have gentle hands," Maya smiled. "Your son needed medical attention. So do you, if I'm not mistaken. That limp suggests an old injury to your left hind leg." Improperly healed fracture? Sharakat's eyes widened, all three of them. The Karvathi had evolved a third eye for thermal detection. How did you— I noticed things, Maya said. Would you like me to take a look? Within a month, Maya's clinic became the most popular establishment on station Kepler 442. The Karvathi came in droves, not just for medical treatment, but for grooming services. It turned out that their retractable claws required regular maintenance, something their traditional culture handled through combat duels that often resulted in injury. Maya introduced them to the concept of simple claw clipping. The irony wasn't lost on the Galactic Council. The species that had terrorized the Outer Rim for centuries now lined up patiently outside a prefab clinic, waiting for a human barely taller than their shoulders to trim their claws and check their teeth. It's humiliating, the Zelthian ambassador complained during a council session. The Karvathi were our greatest warriors. Now they're domesticated, but Sharakat, representing the Karvathi at that same session, simply smiled, a terrifying expression that made the ambassador step backward. We're not domesticated, she said quietly. We've just learned something the rest of you never understood. Strength isn't diminished by accepting care. It's enhanced by it. She paused, her claws extending just slightly. And if you ever call my people domesticated again, Ambassador, I'll show you exactly how wild we can be. Back on station Kepler 442, Maya was completely unaware of the political earthquake she'd caused. She was too busy teaching the smallest cub, now officially named Little Chen in her honor, how to properly file his claws. Humans, it turned out, had a talent the galaxy hadn't expected. Not for war, not for technology, but for something far more revolutionary, the ability to see the person beneath the predator. And sometimes, that was the most powerful weapon of all.